Fascinating.
All right, good evening, welcome to tonight's speech. My name is Brad Melbardis, and I'll be doing a persuasive speech on global warming. Many of you may have already made up your minds about whether or not global warming is happening. Tonight I'm going to present unrefutable scientific evidence showing that the Earth is going through climate change, and humans may be to blame. All of my sources have been peer-reviewed, and the only opinion that I offer is going to be my own. I ask that you listen to this speech with an open mind and try to put what you have heard about global warming aside. I will begin with what global warming is defined as. Global warming is the gradual warming of the Earth's average temperature in reference to climate. Now, some of the causes of global warming are greenhouse gases for one. That's actually the main cause today that we see. And greenhouse gases consist of carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. Where do these greenhouse gases come from? Well, most of them come from the burning of solid waste and fossil fuels, carbon emissions from vehicles, agricultural and industrial process, and organic waste decomposing. Basically, that's landfill gases that escape from the ground. And in the United States, we produce about 638,750,000 tons of garbage a year. That's roughly 7 pounds per person a day of trash. You have all that trash sitting in the ground releasing gases, and that's just in our country. So in other countries where they don't have waste management systems, most of these people burn their trash. And all that trash and toxic gases basically released into our atmosphere. So you can imagine the scale of how much trash is being burnt into the atmosphere. It's not just one pile here or there, it's millions and millions of tons. So how do greenhouse gases cause the warming of the planet? Well, certain gases absorb heat molecules, some more than others. Nitrous oxide absorbs 270 times more heat molecules than carbon dioxide. Then you have carbon dioxide that accumulates in the atmosphere and it actually traps the heat that would normally exit into outer space. The polar ice that exists at the poles reflects solar radiation and solar insolation. Basically, it's not insulation like in your house, it's called insolation, and that's the Earth's ability to reflect the sun rays or absorb the sun rays. So when you have ice caps up in the north, it's just like wearing a white t-shirt outside. If you're wearing a black t-shirt or a white t-shirt, you're going to absorb a lot more heat the darker color. So the more ice that melts, the warmer the planet can become. So it's kind of a cascading effect. Now, you got to ask, why do we think global warming is happening and the Earth's not just warming up? Well, a change in the climate is mainly why we believe that, and there are some reasons why we think that humans are causing it, because this change in the climate is following our human patterns. Now, prior to the Industrial Revolution, levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere were 280 parts per million, and the current level are at 370 parts per million. So it's roughly 100 parts per million since the Industrial Revolution that has been raised. Current levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere are the highest they've been in 650,000 years. So you can say it's just the climatic change, but the fact of 650,000 years in between ice ages is not consistent with what people say, well, we could just be coming in on another ice age, or it's just another pattern of our climate. The global population in 1970 was at 3.7 billion. The global population today is around 5.7 billion, and it's ever increasing. So the more people you have, the more of everything you have, more vehicles, more garbage. So that pattern is consistent with the warming of our planet as well. When you see charts, you can see the rise in each one of them correlate. Oil consumption is up 5 billion tons. From 1970 to now, it's up to 8 billion tons. Energy use is up 1.5 times since 1970. automobile usage has more than doubled. Also, we see sea level rises from the ice caps melting and glacier melt off from land, and that has raised sea levels 2 millimeters in the 20th century. Now, you might think 2 millimeters is nothing, but 1 millimeter of rise in sea level erodes 1.5 meters of land. So it's quite detrimental. And the Arctic ice cap has shrunk to its smallest size since we began keeping track of it a century ago. Now, a lot of people get confused with the difference between climate and weather. Climate is basically a long-term study of our weather, and weather is defined as short-term atmospheric conditions. So when you see a cold winter, perhaps, you're talking about weather there. It's not climate. Climate is averaged out. So you can have cold winters in between, all these hot summers, cold winters, mild winters, and it's an average basis that we're determining why the warming is happening, not just individual winters and summers. The controversy basically lies that the data that follows human activity correlates to the warming of our climate. That's where people get the theory of humans are causing it, and some people say, no, there's no proof that humans are causing it. And there might not be direct evidence pointing right at humans, but there is a lot of evidence that follows humans. Most of the facts that I stated earlier and all along, they're not facts that scientists can disagree on. They are hard facts, and any scientist that refutes those facts, they obviously are going to have some kind of political agenda or an agenda for funding, and it just outright lies. Most argue that humans are the cause of global warming, or that it's a natural cycle. Like I said, some people just think it's naturally occurring. The facts state global warming is real and happening, but people confuse the facts whether we are causing it. Most do not understand the difference between climate and weather also. That's why you hear a lot of people say, oh, global warming, it was freezing cold outside. How the hell do we have global warming? Well, that's because you're talking about weather there, not climate. So, in my conclusion, I'm going to state that the fact is that global warming is happening. I don't believe it's something that can be argued. What we need to ask ourselves is what we should be doing. Whether it's happening or not, should we just ignore the facts and say maybe it's not happening, or should we at least, try to change the way our lifestyle is, just to be on the safe side? Better safe than sorry is always a good way to live by. It would be easy to agree with the skeptics on global warming and just say, it's not happening, that's the easy way, let's go on living the way we want. And a lot of people like to hear that it's not happening, and that's what they want to hear. But we have a responsibility to our planet and our children to think otherwise. So thank you for listening tonight. That concludes my speech.